Well, we promise you there are no playoff games going on right this second, and that gives us a perfect window to talk about them. Nighttime at noon, Brian McCormack and Justin Russo here with you on a Monday afternoon as the Golden Knights getting ready for Game 5 against the Minnesota Wild after a big overtime win in Game 4. There isn't a single playoff series across the Stanley Cup landscape that isn't at minimum interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through a lot. We're going to talk, of course, about the Game 4 overtime win courtesy of Ivan Barbashev. Might have a player guest throughout the afternoon if schedules align. We are going to have a conversation with Mike Davis, head coach of the Vegas Nighthawks of the Indoor Football League in our third segment. Find out just how much Golden Knights hockey he's watching out of the corner of his eye while launching the Nighthawks IFL season. They are 2-2 after a win in San Antonio this weekend, and just try to delve a little bit as best we can into as many series as we can because there's a lot going on. But Justin will start with, of course, Game 4. The Golden Knights, after challenges in Games 2 and 3, Game 4. I never like to use must-win in a series that isn't. I'll allow when you're down 3-0. That's a must-win, not just mathematically,
against the
but
wall, yeah.
Obviously, it's that's a dire situation. So if you're down 2-0, trying to avoid 3-0, I get that. But nonetheless, this was a game that Golden Knights needed to reset the narrative of the series, I think, and I think they did that from the third period on.
And it was interesting coming out of those two losses that there was some optimism still you could sense in Bruce Cassidy in some of the comments that he made after those games. And it's hard to feel that after two 5-2 losses, but you could sense in him like, okay, the puck luck didn't really go our way. It felt like he understood that it was more on them, that they made some mistakes with the puck. They mismanaged it a little bit, and it was correctable, and that they could get back to their game in Game 4 and perhaps get the win, and they certainly did in that one. And credit to him. I think it was hard for a lot of people to see at the time, but the Knights did get back to their game in Game 4. They got on the board first, which was big with that goal from Shea Theodore. And though it was answered shortly after, just getting into that second period tied in a raucous environment in St. Paul, I think they just needed a calmer period like that where they weren't chasing the game like they had been the last couple. They were able to just play their game, and it led to a crazy third period. They got a couple of goals on the board. Jared Spurgeon answers right back, and it creates that overtime scenario where Ivan Barbashev gets the winner. So for the Golden Knights, it's a series tied at 2 now, best of 3. You have home ice, but I think sometimes you look at the timing, right, of when you win games in a series, and a lot better to have won that second game, get that nice flight back, the happy flight back to Las Vegas. You're not worried about things, you're not thinking about things, and they're able to just kind of reset and get ready for Game 5.
Before we dive deeper, and we are going to dive deeper, just to remind you that if you're listening to us on Fox Sports Las Vegas, phenomenal. If you're not, you probably know this already, but this is being streamed across all VGK digital channels. Put your questions in the comments section. Lexi is going to let us know what you guys think. Happy to have you be part of the conversation. So I think we're not going to know until Game 5 what the impact of Game 4 was beyond just ending the series, right? We're not going to know. But I think there's two things we can really zero in on, which is, first of all, this is a series, and I think we figured that out really after Game 2, but this is a Minnesota team, whatever anyone's assessment was of the Minnesota Wild before this series, and they were getting respect, but on paper I think a lot of people thought the VGK were better situated. Mm-hmm. You probably weren't factoring in just how big of a difference Kirill Kaprizov was going to be. You need a reminder because he was on a Hart Trophy run up until he got hurt midseason. But how much he could impact, how much that was going to allow Matt Boldy to be a greater impact on the series, and how I think Ryan Hartman's had a terrific series for Minnesota as well. So this is a series against two very good teams. This is a legit best of 3 the rest of the way, and the Golden Knights needed to get to that playoff caliber level again. That's 1. 2, I wonder the impact on both teams of the win in Game 4 for Vegas. Again, with the actual math of the series, Golden Knights needed it, wanted it. But the fact that the Golden Knights had a third period comeback against a Minnesota team that does not allow third period comebacks. They hadn't lost a game all season when they led after 2 periods. The fact that Jared Spurgeon responded with a goal right after the pinball goal from Tomas Hertl gave the Golden Knights the lead, and they didn't relent after that. This was an opportunity for the Golden Knights to have a third period that was solid, have an overtime surge, get the job done, and a Minnesota team that, again, should feel confident, should feel good about themselves. They've played well. They could have won Game 4. But sometimes the way you lose matters.
Yeah.
And Minnesota, I thought, got a little cautious in overtime. And I also thought, when you're trying to, I think Minnesota, they're an underdog in this series. Not by the chasm people thought, but they're an underdog in this series. To lose this way, Jake Middleton, that's a cardinal sin.
Yeah.
That was the giveaway of all giveaways up the middle, and Ivan Barbashev makes him pay for it. Now you have a Minnesota team that is a shot away from a 3-1 lead in a stranglehold, and now they're still in fine position having to win 2 of the next 3, but boy, does that seem like a much, much taller hill to climb, whereas you have a Golden Knights team that finally probably is feeling like themselves after the way they finished off a game in Game 4.
This has to be the best that the Golden Knights have felt in this series, and a patented Golden Knights turnover on the forecheck there. They immediately turn it into a goal. They get the win in overtime. I mean, that's Golden Knights hockey right there, being aggressive in that offensive zone for yourself and pressuring the defense and immediately turning into some offense there. And Ivan Barbashev right at the front of the net, he and Nick Waugh there. Those two guys, they love to go to that area. But kind of to your point, Brian, lots of guys got going in this game too. Shea Theodore got a goal. Jack Eichel gets a point. Mark Stone gets a point. And those were guys that hadn't been going for the Golden Knights in those first few games. If you're Minnesota, you're thinking, okay, we're getting going now. Our top guys are moving along. It's 2-1. We can really take that stranglehold, that 3-1 stranglehold on this series if we find a way to win this game, and they couldn't. And now you're staring down a Golden Knights team that is starting to pick it up a little bit. Guys have responded, and for the Wild, they've gotten more production from the likes of Marcus Foligno, Marco Rossi. The depth is starting to come through a little bit, but it's not going to just be enough for Kaprizov and Boldy to take over the game. And the Golden Knights, they've had to live with that the first few games. They've had to deal with that, and it worked out for the Wild on a couple of occasions. But now coming back home, you get to match things up a little bit better if you're the Golden Knights. Bruce Cassidy said he's confident with any line out there against that top line, any pair. So we'll see how he decides to go with that and what lines and pairs he ends up going with, because those were in a blender down the stretch as well. But I think for the Golden Knights, the awakening of some of those top players has to be a good sign. Tomas Hertl with another goal in this series as well. And again, it just kind of resets that whole mindset now where you were staring down a 3-1 deficit, and now you have home ice back again all of a sudden, even after 2 losses.
46 shots on Saturday for the Golden Knights. 12-8, they outshot Minnesota in the third. 11-10 in overtime. So, again, Minnesota had their looks. I thought the quality was better for Vegas across both of those periods. But for the Golden Knights, again, I think it's a bit of a narrative reshaper, and there's 2 big narratives that were through the first 3 games of this series. First, you had, for the Golden Knights, turnover trouble.
Yep.
Turnover trouble and puck management. And to me, that kind of, I thought they were playing tight. Up until midway through the second period, they started to look a little more confident with the puck. Because, there's 2 different kinds of giveaways in my mind. Analogy of an infielder, baseball infielder, okay? Game 2, bad passes, bad pucks in the middle of the ice, uncharacteristic decisions with the puck. That's a shortstop throwing it away.
Yeah.
Airmail the first baseman, ends up in the second row. Games 3 and part of Game 4, they just didn't look like they were comfortable with the puck on their stick. There were pucks in feet, pucks bouncing, bobbles of the puck. That's a ground ball to shortstop where he boots it and he doesn't get the throw off at all. It doesn't matter. The run scores both times, right? And I thought after the Waugh goal, for certain, the Golden Knights found a lot more confidence, a lot more smoothness handling the puck with that better decision. So that's an improvement that you hope continues to carry through. Secondly, the first 3 games, it was what are the Golden Knights going to do about Kaprizov and Boldy? And I thought in Game 4 they handled them better than in any portion of this series. They're going to have their chances for sure, but, I mean, it's easy. It's a geography problem. How do you handle them? Keep them 200 feet away.
Exactly.
And we saw more instances of Boldy and Kaprizov pinned in their own end than we've seen in any of the first 3 games.
And that has to kind of be the strategy, right? Because they're so creative in that offensive zone that they're going to get their looks. I mean, we've seen it so many different ways. We saw Kaprizov through traffic in Game 3 get a goal. We've seen in the first couple of games in Vegas, some of the stretch passes that Kaprizov was able to make, that rink-wide pass that he made in the offensive zone. You just have to keep them away from the offensive zone as much as you can, to your point. And now for the Golden Knights, again, coming back home, I wonder for the goaltending, too, because Philip Gustafsson has been excellent so far in this series. And you look at the way Aiden Hill's played, I don't think he's had his fastball yet in this series. He's working his way back, and I think for the VGK right now, it's, okay, Aiden Hill doesn't have to, he's not at that level that we saw a couple of years ago where he's stealing games or stealing series yet, but if he can just kind of maintain above average, a good level right now, I think the Golden Knights are starting to find some success against Philip Gustafsson. They want to get in his eyes a little more. They're getting to that traffic in front of the net too. as they start to chip away at that, you get those timely saves on the other end from Aiden Hill. It just feels like it's all kind of coming together right now for Vegas.
And for the Golden Knights, I thought on Saturday, I thought Riley Smith was really good. I thought Nick Waugh was really good. We're going to have a lot of time to talk about all this. 2 power play goals. Power play hasn't really been a factor in this series just in terms of the number of opportunities, if that can shift a little bit as well. And as you mentioned, Philip Gustavs has been very good in this series. They made his job a lot harder on Saturday. That's probably a formula that we'll need to continue. We're going to take a break. We might have some company, and if we don't, we're just going to keep talking to you, but there's plenty to cover. Before we head out, though, we remind you that if you wish you could keep up with the VGK right at the touch of your screen, now you can with the official mobile app of the Vegas Golden Knights. You can scan, buy, and transfer tickets, play new exclusive games, access live stats, receive game updates, and so much more. The official mobile app of the Vegas Golden Knights is available now on your smartphone through the App Store and Google Play. We'll hop out. More on the way. Brian McCormack, Justin Russo here with you on Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Hey, Golden Knights fans, if you want more Golden Knights content, head over to the Vegas Golden Knights YouTube channel now and subscribe. You can watch all access player videos, game highlights, and even our special VGK Origins. Subscribe to our channel today, stay up to date on all things VGK, and revisit some of our greatest moments as the Vegas Golden Knights on YouTube. Brian McCormack, Justin Russo, here with you on this beautiful Monday afternoon. Lots of playoff hockey to discuss, of course, breaking down Game 4 in a dramatic overtime win for the Golden Knights in Minnesota. Allows them to come back to T-Mobile Arena for Game 5 tomorrow, which is a 6:30 puck drop at T-Mobile Arena. Make sure you're marking your calendars, putting in your Outlook calendar, whatever you do. 6:30, be there, be ready. we talked about some of the narrative shifts that can come from this. Again, it's a Golden Knights team that closed out a game in Game 4 that came from behind and asserted itself, asserted control of the game. We talked a little bit about the turnovers that were plaguing the Golden Knights in the first couple of games. That looked very much fixed in Game 4. And again, as far as narratives go, you have a Minnesota team that was playing with some house money. Let's go back to that overtime goal because Jake Middleton with the turnover right up the middle. And it was kind of a surprise, I guess, to see, yes and no, because the things they teach you when you're young is clear pucks hard.
Yeah.
But we've seen Minnesota do this throughout this series. They're not the only team that goes by this strategy either. Coaches call it the hoist. Just throw it high up in the air, it lands in the neutral zone, put that defenseman in a fair catch situation, but, just put it up in the air and create a bouncing puck and a puck battle in the neutral zone. That's what I think he was trying to do, and he didn't get underneath it at all. And then the scramble mode that ensued in front, Middleton never able to recover. But that was the kind of bounce that the Golden Knights hadn't gotten in the first 3 games. They certainly got a bounce on the Tomas Hertl goal, but this is a flub up the middle. And now again, one play doesn't change the entire series necessarily, but from a narrative perspective, do you think no one's talking about Golden Knight turnovers anymore? They're talking about that turnover and the Golden Knights taking advantage of it and finishing.
No, and I think for how much we talked about the Golden Knights turnover, especially after Game 2 when it really got away from them, I think it completely shifts it because, like you said, too, in that third period, after they got the goal from Waugh, the goal from Hertl, there was a confidence about the Golden Knights. They felt like they were playing more confident moving forward in the rest of that third period into that overtime. And now you have a play for Jake Middleton right there, and, hey, he's going to think about that next time he goes to flip it, right? That's something that sticks in your mind. You don't want to make that mistake. And when you start thinking in a playoff series, you hear that from players all the time. You have to just play on instincts, and when you start thinking, sometimes that can get in your way. And there you see a bounce goes off of his skate, and the puck comes in front. You never know what's going to happen right there. So that's going to be something the Golden Knights can hopefully take advantage of. And too, when you think about the Golden Knights on the forecheck and how much they want to pressure, finishing your checks on the forecheck, making sure you get sticks in there, because any little bounce, if you get the defenseman of the Wild off their game, you can get another one of those turnovers. And it's that high-risk, high-reward kind of play, right, where if you have the ability to flip it over, that's great. That's money, right? You want that ability. But when it doesn't go your way, instead of a puck kind of harmlessly rolling along the boards, if you miss the boards, now it's in the middle, and now there's a chance going the other way. So hopefully the Golden Knights can take advantage of that again, and you have a Wild team that a little less experience in the postseason too. How do they respond now? They thought they were home free, right? They were playing well in Game 4. They were up 2-1, and now they're back even, and they have to find a way to win 2 out of 3, and they have a couple in Vegas if it does go to 7. And this is where the Golden Knights experience can hopefully shine through, and hopefully they can take advantage of that. And again, a lot of these top players starting to go for Vegas. They get that power play goal too, which I think is so important because that was such a big thing in the regular season that really didn't pan out. Really after Game 1, we saw that Pavel Dorofeev power play goal. Brett Howden's technically a late power play goal at the buzzer beater, but it hadn't been working for them even with good opportunities. Thinking back to Game 3 as well, where they had a chance to come back. So lots of the themes throughout the regular season are starting to pick back up for Vegas, and we'll see how Minnesota can respond.
Ivan Barbashev, the 8th Golden Knight to score an overtime goal in the playoffs. And, again, Game 5 tomorrow, Golden Knights come back home where they've been so good all year long. And I say all year long. They've been so good for a decade just about. But, the Golden Knights, 137 shots on goal over the first 4 games. And, I think that's something to refocus in on as well. Golden Knights have had the puck the majority of this series.
Yeah.
And the Minnesota's capitalized offensively on some mistakes throughout the course of a few games. And also early enough in games that the Golden Knights have had to chase a couple of games. That's hard to do against anybody, especially a team that defends pretty well. And Philip Gustafsson's having a good couple of weeks here after a very good season. But I think the Golden Knights in Game 4, another thing that changed a little bit is there was a lot of puck possession in the first 3 games, a lot of pucks towards the net, a lot from the outside.
Yeah.
And the Golden Knights making a little bit of their own medicine in that sense. Game 4, so much more came from the middle, so much more push to the middle, so much more traffic in front. And for the Golden Knights, more power play opportunities are going to happen when you're pushing your way to the inside. And I think for the Golden Knights, that battle level between the hash marks is also something that went up.
And you look at all 3 of the goals, right? Shea Theodore through traffic gets that first goal. And especially the 2 in the third period. One of the things Bruce Cassidy talked about ahead of Game 4 was that, okay, the power play, we're getting those good initial shots, right? We'll get a touch to Jack. He gets a good shot off. Mark Stone gets a good chance. But we're not getting good puck retrievals. We're not getting it back. We're not getting second chances. And what do you see on that goal for Nick Waugh? They get a shot loose puck in the middle, he picks it up and he scores. It's those second chances that they haven't been able to take advantage of, and thus they haven't been able to get some people in front of Philip Gustafsson. And that's the goal that they've had this entire series, what they've wanted to do. They've had one shot on, and the puck's comes out of the zone on the power play. Now, you start getting those puck retrievals, you get those initial shots, you get a loose puck situation, and it just creates chaos in front of Philip Gustafsson. And unconventional with the Tomas Hertl goal, but hey, a heads-up play by Mark Stone, sees a couple of guys just laying there by the crease. Maybe it'll go off of one of them, just fling it toward the net, maybe you get a greasy goal, and that's exactly what happened. But again, just more nastiness at the front of the net for the Golden Knights, kind of responding to what the Wild have done so far in this series and where they wanted to get in front of the net of Adin Hill. And you like the way that the Golden Knights are playing heading into this one. We talked about the players themselves, but now the play style is starting to come through as well.
Puck retrievals is so important, too. That's such a great point, because it's something that's been a bit of a 5-on-5 challenge at times as well, against the Kaprizov-Boldy line in particular. So much better in Game 4. And you know what? There's an element of stick-to-itiveness and an element of opportunistic nature that you got to have to win in the postseason, right? And if you look at, we're seeing here on the screen the Nick Waugh goal, that was definitely stick-to-itiveness, but that was a power play. That was a 4-minute power play on a high stick from Zeev Buyum. First of all, you're not getting many power plays in this series. They had a good number on Saturday, but you got to make that count.
4 minutes for sure.
You got to make that count, and they did. And they did so after, for the first almost 3 minutes of that power play, they couldn't get in the zone.
No.
They were having a really hard time with zone entry, something that Minnesota just did a good job of. When they finally got in, though, and that's why, again, winning faceoffs on the power play is so important, too, but when they finally got in and got set up, then they were able to puck retrievals, create scramble mode, win races to the front. So, again, for all the positive momentum, the positive vibes of Game 4, that was something that wasn't happening in Games 2 or 3, is taking advantage of the bounce when it comes your way. In this case, a double minor power play against a team that doesn't give up third-period leads. And then on top of that, the stick-to-itiveness that for 3 minutes they couldn't get in the zone, and when they finally did and finally got established, went to work.
And you look right before Nick Waugh scored as well. Puck comes free, Middleton and Eriksson box out Hertl for a moment, comes to Matt Boldy, and he flubs on the clear. He can't get it out. So it's a thing for a young player as well, too, to recognize those situations and understand that what we've heard all playoffs, it's a game of mistakes. You hear that in the regular season, but it's all amplified in the postseason. One failed clear, one mishandle of a puck, and it could end up in the back of your net. Matt Boldy knows that well. He's been on the receiving end of a couple of those from the Golden Knights in this series. Think back to Game 3. Noah Hannafin behind his net loses it. Matt Boldy comes right out and scores. So for the young guys on this Minnesota Wild team, it's about recognizing some of those mistakes. Can they clean those up? Just as the Golden Knights have learned throughout this series so far. And again, now you wonder, tied it to late in a playoff series, where does this experience shine through for the Golden Knights? Guys that have been in this situation before, you did not sense a lot of panic in the Golden Knights, down 2-1, and you certainly didn't, or you didn't sense it from their head coach, Bruce Cassidy. Again, it was weird to listen because you almost felt like you were up 2-1 listening to Bruce Cassidy after games 2 and 3, and you're like, you're confident, huh? You feel that you can get this going, and they did. And it took a little line shuffling in Game 4, took a little digging into the bag of tricks, but
Jack Eichel on the wing for a bit.
yeah, they found a way, and Brett Howden battling through an illness too, leading into that overtime, just trying to jumble everything together, see what they could put together, and the Golden Knights just found a way to win. So again, that experience now, best of 3. We'll see if they can take advantage.
And for the Golden Knights as well, again, best of 3, coming back home where they've been so good, and you can honestly say, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, they got on the sheet in Game 4, but they still haven't broken through in a way that dominates the game. And any team facing the Golden Knights would say, you're not going to keep those guys quiet across a 7-game series. So the Golden Knights in the driver's seat in terms of home ice advantage, momentum heading into Game 5, and with a couple of their most potent weapons still not yet jumping into the series to the extent that we expect they eventually will.
And that's the good news for Vegas, right, is that they haven't played their best. And I think that's probably why Bruce Cassidy was a little confident, is that, okay, we're down 2-1, found a way to win Game 1, but our best players aren't necessarily going like they were in the regular season. There's still room for growth, whereas if you're Minnesota, you got basically everything you could out of your top guys, and now you're looking for your depth to kind of chime in. And they have, to their credit. Marcus Foligno, Marco Rossi, a couple of guys who've contributed, but for Minnesota, we saw everything we were going to see from Kaprizov and Boldy. They've given you their best shot. And it's not very often they're going to produce more than the 3-4 point games that they've been producing throughout this series. So for the Golden Knights, if you can, again, keep them in the defensive zone, prevent them from attacking, and then get the best and extract the best out of Eichel, out of Stone. Hey, we saw Ivan Barbashev got the overtime winner, so we know he's got it going now. If you can raise your level a bit over these final 2 or 3 games of the series, I think there's still more to come for Vegas.
And possibly, again, the shuffling we saw in Game 4, that might continue forward.
Yeah.
In practice, looks like there's still some experimentation going on with the line combinations. But Bruce has talked about earlier this week, you don't want to blow everything up because that kind of speaks to panic. You can't sit on your hands either, so put guys in better situations, tinker a little bit, and we saw that. But I think it all ties back to sometimes you'll see a coach, we're not getting what we need from this line, what have you, and it's not coming, and we got to find it somewhere else. Bruce's attitude is one of, it's there, it's coming, let's tinker and find a way to open these guys up. But he knows that that is eventually going to be there for this team, whether this series goes 6 or 7. And it's fine to bring that up because if you look at other series right now, you need to hear that reassurance from some other locker rooms. In question, Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg, a guy that you assume, hey, he's going to be there for you. But after a couple of years of playoff performances, that's now a little bit more of a discussion. So we're going to hop out. When we come back, again, we might have some company as the show goes along, but we're going to catch you up with Nighthawks head coach Mike Davis, talk a little hockey with him, a little football, but we'll touch on some of these other series as well because there's a lot going on. Brian McCormack, Justin Russo here with you on Fox Sports Las Vegas. This is Nighttime at Noon. Vegas Nighthawks are back in action at home this Saturday for Military Appreciation Night as they take on the Northern Arizona Wranglers. Come cheer on the Nighthawks and show your support at Lee's Family Forum. Kickoff at 6 p.m. see you there, Kaka. And to get us set for that and a little recap of what the Nighthawks have accomplished thus far, we are joined by head coach and general manager, Mr. Mike Davis. Mike, thanks for hopping on. Brian McCormack and Justin Russo here on Nighttime at noon. Your team coming off a big win in San Antonio on Saturday and a 2-2 start to the year. How are things looking thus far?
I mean, it's always good to get a win. Obviously, wins are hard to come by any place, anywhere you play. So happy to get a win and get back on the right track and just try to build momentum off of that.
2-2 start for you guys. Obviously, you look back to last season and the way you guys kind of ran through that middle part of the season, grabbed a bunch of wins and set yourself up for the playoffs. What's the message for the team right now in terms of getting going in this regular season and trying to make another playoff push?
Just building it brick by brick and day by day, right? Like, we haven't played well. We haven't played good complementary football, I guess I should say. To start the season, we probably should be. You look back and people would say we probably should be 4-0 with the talent we have, but we're 2-2. We just hadn't had the ball bounce our way and made enough plays. And the talent's there, and the guys kind of understand that. And at some point, you just got to look in the mirror and continue to work and get better.
With Mike Davis, head coach of the Vegas Nighthawks. Coming into this season, we talked a lot about a lot of the returning cast from last year's team that had a lot of success and the opportunities that was going to present for your group. But there were some important newcomers as well. That included Jaden DeLaura, who we got our first real taste of this past weekend. What do you speak to of the depth of this group and the options that you have?
That's one of the things that we wanted to target after last year. We had some injury issues, and we really didn't have guys. We had a great roster, but our roster was great for the starters. We didn't really have guys sitting in the wings waiting for their opportunity to take advantage of it. So we tried to address that this year, and I think we've done a really good job of that. So we've seen a bunch of new DBs playing. We've had new D linemen playing every week. We've had a new fourth receiver in the lineup every week. So for us, it's just, okay, let's get these guys. Let's see what we really have and go from there.
We talk so much with the Golden Knights and the depth that this team has on the hockey side of things and how that creates some internal competition for them. What do you see in that internal competition with that depth and guys just trying to play their way into the lineup?
It actually works out great. Practices are competitive day in, day out because everybody's trying to flash and make a play. And for us, it's more about, are you doing what you're supposed to do? Are you doing a little bit extra? And are you trustable? Are you trustworthy, right? Does the quarterback trust you? Do the coaches trust you? More importantly, do your teammates trust you? Do they trust you to be where you're supposed to be when it's your play to be made? And if you are, then we can work with that.
We're with Mike Davis, head coach of the Vegas Nighthawks. Nighthawks on Saturday at home taking on the Northern Arizona Wranglers, 6 p.m. kickoff. Coach, the Nighthawks, with the first 4 games of the season, 3 of them on the road, mix a bye week in there as well. We're already over a month into the season. You guys have played 1 home game, and I wonder if that offers an opportunity for you guys as well to have spent this time figuring out things about your group that you needed to, and now you've got a stretch of home games that you can kind of hit the ground running.
It does. As much as you don't want to start 3 out of the 4 on the road, it allows you to have some opportunities to gel as a group and see the camaraderie. And, the group is fantastic. They enjoy being around everybody each and every day, and they enjoy coming to work. And when you can do that, it should breed some good success.
Coach, recently had that bye week, of course, and I wonder if you have a lot, I'm sure, in terms of preparing for the next game against San Antonio, but we're sitting here Stanley Cup playoff time. Hockey's a big thing. Do you take part? Do you watch any of the Stanley Cup playoff action in some downtime?
For sure. I mean, obviously, we go to games and we enjoy it. Obviously, if time permits, like I think we're planning on going on Tuesday, and but you still got to get your work done. If we get our work done, in time, and there's some extra time, okay, let's go enjoy it.
Well, Coach, you could probably give some advice to fans at home who have knots in their stomachs for the last week and hopefully a couple months to come. But, as a coach who's coached, of course, playoff football, how do you balance the intensity that's necessary and the level-headedness that helps avoid mistakes at the most important time of year. How do you have both that aggressiveness and that cerebral nature to be successful in playoff competition?
We try to replicate that in practice. We try to put guys in stress situations in practice, and whether it's situations or certain unique formations and things like that, to see how they're going to react and see, okay, who's the smart player, who's the aggressive player, who's going to keep a cool head across the board, and kind of go from there.
Well, as we get ready for Game 5 tomorrow at T-Mobile Arena, any predictions? Do you have any guesses of who the hero could be?
Man, I always say there's always somebody comes up in the playoffs that you don't expect. So somebody's going to make a play. I got a feeling somebody's going to make a play that it's not going to be the Jacks or the Hurdles or something like that. It's going to be somebody that kind of can slip through the cracks that you're not ready for, and that's how you bond as a team and you can just keep it moving.
You heard from head coach Mike Davis. Someone during the course of this playoff run is going to become a household name in Vegas for decades to come. Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend against Northern Arizona. We'll be watching, and thanks for hopping on with us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And that's head coach Mike Davis of the Vegas Nighthawks. Again, the Nighthawks taking on the Northern Arizona Wranglers on Saturday for Military Appreciation Night. Kickoff at 6 p.m. for the 2-2 Vegas Nighthawks. Back on the hockey side of things, and as mentioned, there are a lot of good series right now.
Yeah.
The West is across the board tied at 2. Winnipeg and St. Louis tied at 2 after St. Louis won both at home, so no road victories in that series just yet. Dallas and Colorado are knotted. LA and Edmonton
you see it on your screen
knotted.
if you're watching on our stream right now.
And a little more room to breathe in the East, where Washington, Carolina, and Toronto all have 3-1 series leads. We'll bounce around here. There's no time to get elbow deep in all of these, but I got to say, the two there are two of the most fascinating series that we've seen thus far is Winnipeg-St. Louis, and how the playoff Hellebuck conversation is rearing its head again, and the Kings and the Oilers, where the Kings could have possibly, you got closeout games. Edmonton is tough to put away. All that is true. This series feels like it could be over.
Yeah.
If the Kings could handle business in the third period a little more tightly. So let's start with Winnipeg and St. Louis. A St. Louis team that Jordan Binnington has been phenomenal at home. I think he's won 13 in a row at home, something like that, dating back to the regular season. And Connor Hellebuck, again, we talk about the knowledge that your star players they're gonna be there for you. They're gonna come through. And Connor Hellebuck, I think, deserves that trust, in the sense that there are some people starting to say, well, do you do a goaltending change for Game 5? Connor Hellebuck, the Jets are not a President's Trophy winning team without Connor Hellebuck.
No shot.
But the problem is they're also not a President's Trophy winning team with this version of Connor Hellebuck. It's the 190 goals against is the version that does it.
It's a dilemma, right? And I think you have to stick with him, because you have to have that trust, like you said, right? And it felt good for Winnipeg after those first couple of games. It was a little shaky in Game 1, but they found a way to win late, and you're thinking, okay, maybe that gets him going, right? He didn't play his best, but they found a way to win. Come back in Game 2 with a strong performance. They don't allow a lot to St. Louis. And things just open up in Games 3 and 4, especially yesterday's game where St. Louis ran up the score a bit, Hellebuck pulled. And it's never good when the away crowd is wishing you to come back into the game, as St. Louis was, this chanting that we want Hellebuck. So Winnipeg in a difficult spot right now. They get, again, difficult given what has happened so far in this series. But you look at the Kings, you look at the Jets, they're going to have a best of 3 with 2 at home, just like the Golden Knights have right now. So it's not the end of the world, but they need their top guy to be their top guy in Connor Hellebuck. So they need to find a way to grab some momentum back from St. Louis. And we know St. Louis, when they get a little hot, they can ride it the rest of the way. We saw that win streak they had at the end of the season. So they have to do something to stop this Blues team in their tracks, and we'll see if they can do it.
And for Winnipeg, I think, too, again, you go with the guy that got you there. And that's not just blind loyalty. It's the fact that if you can't trust Connor Hellebuck in this game, that is the most important of your season to date, well, then you pretty much are saying you don't trust him the rest of the way.
Yeah.
There's a long trip here. So if you're willing to go without Hellebuck for Game 5, You got to be willing to ride Comrie then until Comrie gives you a reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not the same team without Connor Hellebuck. Now, again, this is 3 straight years of very similar numbers of subpar playoff performance. To me, I'm curious. You know what keeps coming back to mind for me? This is a Rory McIlroy situation. This is Rory at the Masters.
Can he get it done?
This is Rory at the Masters, because sometimes it's Rory yanking a drive into the water, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's missing a putt. That is a gimme, and again he overcame that.
Yeah.
And for Connor Hellebuck, this guy is a .930 save percentage all day long, every single regular season, and he gets to the playoffs, and it's not the same. And again, they've got to play better defensively in front of him. I've seen some discussions about screens and tips, and for sure, but he sees screens and tips in the regular season too. He stops them to a tune of .930 percentage.
Yeah, and you look at the regular season version of Connor Hellebuck, sure, maybe defensively they didn't play their best game. They might lose 2-1 or 3-1. They're not losing by the margins that they're losing in the last couple of games.
Right, and some of those screens, some of those tips, okay, they're hard, but it's playoffs. You got to stop some of them. And you look at the third goal that St. Louis had yesterday was Braden Shen, who just came like right across the front. Hellebuck, he's not aggressive. There's no killer instinct there, which is unusual for him, which again just makes you feel like he's aware of this too. So I mean, to me, if you're Winnipeg, I don't think there's that serious a discussion of this.
No.
But you need him to figure out. He's signed for, I think, 7 more years, 8 more years. You need him to figure it out.
And rightfully so, right? Because of what he's done in the regular season, the Vezinas and the all the accolades that he's had. But you go to the mind of a goaltender as well. Sometimes we'll see teams enter the postseason with a 1A or a 1B. Maybe Boston, the outlier there, and that they were confident with Swayman and Olmark the past couple of years. But sometimes you'll see a team that doesn't really know where they want to go in net, and it just goes back and forth, and neither guy really gets to have that confidence. And I think for Hellebuck, being the starter and being who he is, if you yank him now, maybe he comes back in the regular season, he shakes it off, but come next spring, when you get to the playoffs, he's going to be thinking about that, and it's going to be in his head. You have to just kind of let him work through it.
He needs a 39-save win.
Exactly.
He needs it, and they need him to push through and figure that out. But it's again, to me, the Rory storyline, there's a segment of the fan base, or not the fan base, the NHL fan base, the viewership that is watching and being like, all right, let's watch another explosion. And there's a segment also that's like, come on, buddy, get over the hump.
Yeah, you want him to succeed. He just can't get there.
Do what we know you do everywhere else. Again, the other series last night, Edmonton winning in overtime, overcoming a third-period deficit.
Could do a whole show on that series.
It's just so strange how different a team the Kings are for the first 40 minutes to the final 20 minutes. They are trying to defensively shell their way to the final buzzer, and you can't do that when McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard are all on the ice at the same time.
And you might, looking at the first couple of wins, you might think, oh, they played so well at home. Don't forget Game 1. Don't forget the comeback that Edmonton had in Game 1 where they got that to a tie game, and a miraculous goal at the end allows LA to escape with a win.
And Kemper's been outstanding.
Oh, he's been terrific.
Outstanding.
And that's good news for LA, is that he's been holding on late in games for them as much as he can, but they survive Game 1. They dominate Game 2. Game 3, it's going to come back to that challenge for Jim Hiller, right? And, of course, you get that goal from Evander Kane. It felt like a panic a little bit from Jim Hiller there, where he felt like he needed to get that goal off the board, needed him to stay with the lead. And the risk versus reward, I just don't know if you can do that with Edmonton's power play. And we're right? And 10 seconds later, they score.
Their whole personality has been so cautious holding on to leads since then, and it's just a matter of chipping away. And the one thing that jumps out, too, the tying goal in the final minute from Evan Bouchard, it's a rocket. It's what he does. It's give him 10 seconds to tee up from the tips, and he's going to blast it through. But 5 seconds before that, Quentin Byfield gets it just ripped off his stick 5 feet inside the blue line, and that's a turnover that just can't happen. And of course, everyone knows that. It's not a novel concept, but like a feathered chip off the wall, and that game's over. And it was just so the puck management towards the end was just so surprising.
And it's something, we talk about the Kings and how differently they play, too. It also goes on the Oilers side of things, because think of that Kevin Fiala goal that extended the lead late in that second period, where he's just skating right around Evan Bouchard and Darnell Nurse, your two best defensemen on that team, you think, and they're not looking so great at that point, but then they're able to come back, and Bouchard gets that goal as well. So we know Edmonton's issues defending, right? We figured that would be the case, especially when they lost a couple of guys from last year's playoff run. They're not as deep of a team. They've already transitioned to Calvin Pickard in this series. They've had issues in net that we've really seen dating back to the series that the Golden Knights played against them in 2023. Stuart Skinner, some issues in that series. So You know that's kind of how you have to get to Edmonton. You might need to win a track meet sometimes, but they're pretty well equipped for that on the offensive end too. And when you get 97 and 29 going, 29, Leon Draisaitl scores the overtime winner. It's tough to compete with, and Darcy Kemper was getting shelled in that overtime.
Yeah.
He kept them in it as long as he could. The shot total was up and up and up for Edmonton, and eventually on the power play it was just too much.
And McDavid is being McDavid, Draisaitl is being Draisaitl, Bouchard is being Bouchard, Nugent Hopkins is being Nugent Hopkins. The difference right now, the temperament of this series, the reason that the Oilers have been able to force their way back in, to me, in more instances than one, is Corey Perry.
Yeah.
They don't have an answer for Corey Perry
No.
right now, who's, I don't want to say he's turning back the clock, but he's playing with old man strength, and it's working.
And you wonder, too, back to experience and back to history. This has been going for 4 years in a row now, and you wonder for LA, when does it start to creep in your head like, not again? This isn't going to happen again, right? And you think back to the last few years, they haven't been able to get over the hump. Now Edmonton comes in with even more experience last year. Of course, you balance the fatigue perhaps from going to the Stanley Cup final, but they know what it takes to get there to the very last game of the playoffs and get within a goal. Do the Kings have that resiliency in them to come back in this series? It's going to be interesting to see. They're another team that's so good on home ice. They get to go back to LA now. Can they win Game 5? Game 5 is so important. It's going to be so important down the line for all these Western Conference series, and we'll see if they can get it done.
And the Golden Knights have, of course, their own work to do. This is going to be a tough finish to this series as well. Two teams.
Nothing easy.
It's going to be tough. At the same time, though, the eyes are not looking towards the second round, but the second round will come. And if you do get there, the idea of the Kings and Oilers beating the wheels off of each other for 7 games and draining each other of every confidence, you'll take it.
Yeah.
We're going to hop out when we come back. Final segment, more playoff rounds to cover, more VGK prep work to do. Brian McCormack and Justin Russo here with you on Fox Sports Las Vegas. This is Nighttime at Noon. The Golden Knights are not looking too far ahead. They've got a playoff series to handle right here and now. But Justin and I, we can look ahead. We can look all the way ahead to the 25-26 NHL season, for which season tickets are on sale now. Season tickets offer our Golden Knights fans the best savings off single game ticket prices, with full season membership starting at just $58 per ticket per game. Other benefits of membership include access to exclusive member benefits and gifts, priority access to playoff tickets, and so much more. Head to VegasGoldenKnights.com and buy yours today. VegasGoldenKnights.com for season tickets for the 25-26 season. Brian McCormack, Justin Russo here with you. We've got Lexi and Ron Paul in the back. We've got Ruben on the radio side spinning the ones and twos. And we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot through the first 45 minutes plus of this show. We were hoping that we might be able to get a special guest from down in the Golden Knights locker room. It doesn't look like the timing is going to work out that way, and that's because they're downstairs talking to all the other media. So, yes. We gave you the anticipation, the excitement, what could have been, but luckily that's because all VGK personnel were doing their regular media obligations, which means if you go on the Golden Knights social platforms, they're talking there, so you'll certainly get your prep on that end for Game 5 tomorrow night at T-Mobile Arena. We stress again, it is a 6:30 puck drop for Game 5. If you show up at 7, you will have missed the Dragons and the Golden Knight and Carnell and probably 3 goals and who knows what else. So
that's a lot. You don't want to miss that.
You don't want to miss that, no. And the whole Toshiba Plaza experience, so you'll have missed everything. Don't make that mistake. Be there for 6:30.
Isn't it fun during the playoffs, though? You get a 7 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, 6:30. You just never really know, right?
Yes, that's true. And you know what? Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly which game it is that's preceding the 6:30 puck drop. Maybe it'll become 6:50, but be there for 6:30. And when Game 6 comes around, the Golden Knights will, of course, be on the road. But we here in Vegas will be gathering together, thousands of voices strong, so that they can hear us in Minnesota for Game 6, the watch party at Stadium Swim in the Circa Resort and Casino. Stadium Swim watch party for Game 6.
Sounds good to me.
I might go. Sounds
like a good time. Yeah.
Lexi will be there.
Oh.
Okay, good. Lexi
Everyone's going to be there.
Everyone's going.
The whole crew
to Circa, but let's take care of Game 5. First. We're bouncing around a couple of the series again. Out east, Ottawa won in overtime to force a Game 5. They've been fun. I don't think there's going to be enough gasoline to get them there, but I think they've been fun. Florida and Tampa Bay is not just
a weird one.
A battle on the ice, a little bit of a friendly war of words as well. John Cooper and Paul Maurice, who are two of the best. You know, some coaches go to the podium not wanting to make bulletin board material. They go up there looking to make bulletin board material, and they're having a little bit of a fun back and forth.
Yeah, that series is fun, too, and you look at the fact that the road team is just well and away won all those games. So the home team has not found a lot of success in that series. I think that was expected to be one of the tighter ones, and if you're on our stream, you see that's the only one that's 2-1 right now. We haven't gotten to that next game yet, so perhaps that's the only one out east that becomes 2-2, and we'll see how close that gets. But I've had fun watching the Washington-Montreal series. There's been lots of antics in that one. The Tom Wilson crying gift that I'm sure is going to be one of the more popular ones on social media for years to come, and it's been so fun.
Then that was Game 3, the temperature turning up there. Talk about a hit that might have changed the series. Tom Wilson's hit on Alexander Carrier yesterday. That was a rocket launcher for the Caps to win Game 4. I'll tell you what, I thought Montreal's so fun.
They are fun.
And they're playing like a team that knows, like, hey, they're playing to win, of course, but they know their window just opened. They're playing very free and very house money mentality. I thought that was the one team of all the first rounds that an upset, I shouldn't say the only upset, but that was an upset I thought was possible, and I think it was close.
They're a little bit of a wild card, right? And now, who knows, Sam Montembeault out, Jakob Dobesch is in. I love watching the Montreal power play. I looked up, I was like, looking at all the guys on the ice, I'm like, this is a young power play. And I look up the ages. Nick Suzuki's 25. He's the oldest guy on that power play. You have Nick Suzuki, Juraj Slavkovsky's 21, Cole Caulfield's 24, Ivan Demidov at 19, and then Lane Hudson on the back end at 21. Talk about a youth movement in Montreal. They're taking over.
You remember the World Cup of Hockey, like 6 years ago when
Team
they had
North America,
the U23 team?
Yeah.
Like, that's the power play for the U23 team. But that's been a fun series. Might have more legs to it, but Montreal's a little bit of an uphill battle now. But they've shown everyone what's to come.
Yeah.
But they've all been They've all been a lot of fun. I think Toronto probably, Ottawa kept it alive a little bit longer, but Toronto is well positioned there.
Well, don't ask Leafs fans. I'm sure they're sweating right now, given their playoff history. Who knows how safe the Leafs are at this moment?
Which I'll tell you what, though, if that's going to happen, if that is going to get interesting in that way, that means Brady Tkachuk did something.
Yes, that's always fun. Yeah,
it's not going to just quietly drip to a Game 7.
No.
Yeah, the Leafs are like, shake me when it's over. For the Golden Knights, though, heading into an important Game 5 against a Minnesota team, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, Justin. I think this is a Golden Knights team. We're not going to know how either of these teams feels, where the momentum is, the vibes are, until Game 5 is underway, because both teams have a lot of reason to feel good about themselves. This is one of the 2-2 series in the West. I think these are the two teams that go in. Both teams feel perfectly fine with what they've done. But for the Golden Knights, it's, hey, we've finally captured our hockey. Now let's ratchet it up again, because we still haven't seen their best game. And for the Wild, it's, if you told us we were going to go into Game 5 with a split, we would have signed on the dotted line.
Yeah, and I think for both teams, they know what their best looks like. And for the Golden Knights, to a different extent, having won the Stanley Cup, a lot of those guys still on the roster, they know the gear they can get to, the level they can get to in this playoffs. And they saw it a bit in Game 4, and they probably... And they've admitted as much even after Game 1. They haven't really played their best game yet. There's still a lot more to come for the Golden Knights, so they feel they can get to a better version of their game in Game 5. And like you said, for the Wild, if you're John Hines, hey, let's get back to what we did in Games 2 and Games 3. Get in hard on the forecheck, force those mistakes from the Golden Knights, and capitalize on them. They have to feel good about the way that they won those two games. And the Golden Knights, like you said, too, they have to feel good about when they won the most recent game and the fact that they have a little bit of momentum coming in.
Just a quick closing thought, closing question. We talked about the Golden Knights more physical in Game 4, more to the inside Game 4. It benefited them, more power plays.
Yeah.
This series hasn't had a nasty moment yet. If this series was to get a little grittier, a little nastier, who does it benefit more?
I think it benefits the Wild a little bit, honestly. We've seen Ryan Hartman get into it a little bit. I think they want to bring that physicality. And that's not to say the Golden Knights can't bring it, right? We know Nick Hague, we know Keegan Colasar can match that level, but I think for the Golden Knights who are looking to get back to their top guys going, they want to avoid some of that.
We haven't seen the big hit in this series yet.
Not
I wonder
yet.
if it comes.
No Tom Wilson moment.
That'll be Game 5 tomorrow. Again, a 6:30 puck drop at T-Mobile Arena and the broadcast on Vegas 34. He's Justin Russo. I'm Brian McCormack. Thanks to Lexi. Thanks to Ron Paul. Thanks to Mike Davis for joining us today as well. We'll see you tomorrow night for Game 5 from T-Mobile Arena.